overseeing the hush money case against Donald Trump dismissed the jury today. This is after no verdict was reached on day one of deliberations in the first criminal trial ever of a former U.S. president. Deliberations started in the late morning after the state judge, Judge Merchan, delivered lengthy instructions to the 12-person jury. The jury deliberated today for about 4.5 hours. And the White House said this week that Israel did not violate President Biden's warnings on the conduct of its military campaign in Rafah after an airstrike over the weekend killed at least 45 Palestinians and injured hundreds more, suggesting that the United States would impose no consequences for the Israeli action. And 3 Black men sued American Airlines in federal court yesterday, claiming that they were victims of blatant and egregious racial discrimination after employees from American Airlines ordered them and 5 other Black men off of an airplane in January. Airline representatives told the men who were traveling from Phoenix to New York to return to the gate to be rebooked. An employee eventually told the men that someone on the plane had complained about body odor. The National Democratic Super PAC Forward Majority is planning to make a big spend, about $2 million on Texas state House races this year. They seek to take advantage of Republican infighting to cut into the party's advantage in the chamber. The group said ongoing feuds in the state with leading Texas Republicans and former President Trump campaigning against the party's incumbent lawmakers who voted to impeach State Attorney General Ken Paxton or against Governor Abbott's school voucher program are pushing the GOP's candidate to the right and creating an opening for Democrats in the traditionally red state. And federal investigators are preparing to bring accusers of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs before a federal grand jury. Now, this is according to 2 sources familiar with the probe, signaling the U.S. Justice Department is moving towards potentially seeking an indictment of Combs. Possible witnesses have been notified by investigators that they could be brought in to testify in front of a federal grand jury in New York. Bringing individuals who have filed civil lawsuits against Sean Combs before a grand jury would mark a significant escalation in the government's ongoing investigation involving the producer and Bad Boys Records founder. According to sources, the investigation involves not just human trafficking, but also illegal drugs and potential money laundering. And nearly 5 months before Election Day, a minister who is also the co-founder of the group Black Church PAC remains critical of how the Biden administration has stood by Israel, but he is now leading an effort alongside other progressive Black activists, strategists, and faith leaders that would indirectly help Joe Biden by working to defeat former President Donald Trump. It is one of the clearest signs yet that at least some of Biden's critics on the left will still work to stop Trump, even if they are lukewarm on the incumbent president. And in breaking news today, Justice Samuel Alito said that he would not recuse himself from 2 cases arising from the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol after reports that flags flown over houses that he owns appear to support the Stop the Steal movement. Alito, in letters to members of Congress who demanded his recusal, said the flags that his Virginia and New Jersey homes were flown, not by him, but by his wife, Martha Ann. He said, "My wife is fond of flying flags." He says, "I am not. She has sole responsibility for having flagpoles put up at our residence and our vacation home and has flown a wide variety of flags over the years." He said nothing about his wife's conduct has anything to do with his inability to be impartial, and therefore he will continue to sit on all cases before the Supreme Court, and particularly those involving the attack on the Capitol. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by 2 brilliant contributors, Dr. Omikango Dabinga, who is a senior professional lecturer at American University, and Katrina Robinson. She's joining us today. She's a consultant and former Tennessee state senator. And in hour two, you know what we do? That's the hour where we go behind those headlines and we bring you those stories people are talking about. Well, today I've gotten to reunite with a dear friend of mine. She and I actually co-hosted CBS's syndicated talk show, daytime talk show, Face the Truth. And we also were co-hosts for a period on the Emmy Award-winning daytime talk show, The Doctors. She is a triple board certified licensed psychologist, and she's written a couple of books, including a new book that she has out on attachment styles. Now, you may be saying, what is attachments or what are attachment styles? Well, the reality is we all develop attachment styles as infants. And by understanding what your attachment style is, you can build stronger and healthier relationships. Your attachment style reflects how you behave, not only in your romantic relationships, but also in those relationships with family members and even your platonic friends. Some experts say that the emotional connection you form as an infant with your primary caregiver pretty much dictates what your attachment style is. So they say that your mother or your caregiver, provided you with a lot of security in those early stages of life, you are likely to be fairly confident and you probably have developed a fairly successful attachment style. However, if your caregiver was unable to consistently respond to your needs or made you feel insecure, it's a possibility that you have experienced or continue to experience insecurity around attachments. So, Dr. Ho is going to help us understand our ability to change whatever attachment style we may have developed as a result of our early relationship with our mothers or our fathers or our caregivers. And she's going to talk to us about her new book called The New Rules of Attachment. Book came out just March of this year. Dr. Ho, as I said, she is the GOAT, I would call, of psychologists with her triple board certification. She's licensed. She's a forensic neuropsychologist. She's also a tenured professor at Pepperdine University. She hosts a podcast. This is her second book. And she's just all around just a phenomenal woman, fantastic mother and a wife and good friend. And I'm so happy to reunite with her to catch up with what she's been up to since we were last hosting that show together, but also help us understand how our attachment styles may be impacting both positively and negatively our relationships. So make sure you stick around for hour two for Dr. Judy Ho. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I want to give a great, great big shout out to NBA great Dwayne Wade. He was in Florida, today talking about a program. As you all know, he's a Hall of Famer. He spent more than 14 seasons as a guard for the Miami Heat. He won 3 championships, and they nicknamed him Wade County because of his great connection to that Miami community. And he still leads the franchise in everything from points and rebounds to personal fouls. But the fight that he was there for on Thursday of last week was a program that's near and dear to his heart, and it's called the Elevate Prize Foundation's Make Good Famous Summit. And this is all about raising awareness of kids who are transgender. So he knows how difficult it was for his own child, Zaya, when his child revealed that they were transgender. He and his family experienced a lot of backlash, a lot of hate from different people. His daughter, who's now turned 17, Zaya is turning 17. She came out as transgender in 2020 in the midst of anti-trans legislation in Florida and other states that have really been coming down hard on the trans community. So he actually left the state of Florida. He sold his Florida home and moved to California. And he was back in Florida to accept an award from this organization because of the work that he's been doing to promote, to raise awareness, to educate, and to advocate on behalf of the trans community. So I just want to say congratulations to Dwayne Wade. Happy birthday to his daughter. And congratulations to his entire family. It takes a family to raise a child, it takes a family to raise a trans child, and it takes a village to really wrap their arms around children who are trans, who experience a great deal of discrimination, of bullying at school, of rejection from their friends, both girls and boys. So when someone with as big of a platform as Dwayne Wade uses that platform to raise awareness, to raise funds, and to advocate on behalf of trans kids, we have to stop, take notice, and give him credit for doing so. Because a lot of family members, a lot of dads would not have been able to embrace and stand up and stand in solidarity with their trans child. A lot of stigma still associated with the trans community. And we know in the Black community in particular, a lot of folks who are members of the LGBTQ community still suffer a great deal of shame and humiliation, often at the hands of religious leaders and others. So when you have a black man who plays professional sports, a black man who has a huge platform, use that platform in the way that Dwayne Wade is doing, we all should give it up for Dwayne Wade and his family. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant Black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to KBLA1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fibers that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a Samsung Galaxy A14 included with the activation of a Silver Unlimited plan. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Yeah!
Switch to Straight Talk. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com. Requires in-store activation. Device offer ends 6/9/24. Taxes and fees apply.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now during our Memorial Day sale, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed plus free home delivery when you add any base. Ends Memorial Day. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
All right, we are back and we're breaking down today's breaking and trending news with two of the best in the business, Dr. Omikango Dibinga and Katrina Robinson. So let's start with you, Dr. Dibinga. I don't know how I feel about the wife did it defense. We hear Senator Menendez, that's his defense in his criminal trial. And now Justice Alito is like, oh, that's my wife. It's not me. What do you make of these powerful men blaming these acts on their wife? And in the case of Justice Alito saying, I'm not recusing myself from anything because it's my wife, not me, who's responsible for those flags that are obviously supportive of the Stop the Steal movement.
Well, it's clear that these men who are so powerful have no respect for women, and they have no problem throwing their wives under the bus, which is why you're not hearing any condemnation from any other Republican colleagues or people of any type of influence in any way, shape, or form. And you're also not hearing the wife speak up as well. And so this is just another example of the fact that the Chief Roberts Court it has some type of ethics rules, but they're pretty much like the International Court of Justice, right? No enforcement policies whatsoever. And so if you don't have any enforcement policies and you don't really have rules, and this is really problematic that he's saying that emphatically that he's not going to recuse himself, because we're not only talking about one flag, which is supporting an insurrection, but with the tree symbol, that's something that is extremely Christian nationalist. And I'm talking about things going against a woman's right to choose on many levels in terms of their level of what vigor as relates to what this flag has meant historically, which is important because they also have cases relating to abortion and a women's right to choose also before the Supreme Court as well. And there will be more cases. So the fact, these guys are not supposed to not show, as you know better than anybody, not just, have a real bias, but any indication of potential bias is enough to have to recuse yourself. So the fact that he's not going to be recusing himself, the fact that Thomas is not going to be recusing himself from these types of cases really shows that we have a Supreme Court that is only governing itself, doesn't care about anybody. And as Alito said earlier this year, Congress has no right to, subpoena us for anything. They write your checks. So how does that work? And I think that this is a really important time for Democrats to really stand up and be very vocal about this. When the first flag came out, Durbin was basically like, well, there's not much we can do. And that's not what the people need to be seeing from Democrats. They need to see them fighting for these men to recuse themselves. And this is yet another reason why people like me say, if Biden should be looking at expanding the court, especially if he gets more Democrats in Congress and the Senate in 2024 in this election.
Yeah, a lot of folks are really hot with Dick Durbin. They're as hot as with Durbin, who's the ranking Democrat in the Senate over the judiciary, as they are with Alito. And this blaming your wife, Katrina, is so wimpy. Let's just call it what it is. I'm thinking of friends of mine, a husband and wife. The husband works in an investment firm, and because of his work in this investment firm, he can't make contributions to certain political figures. Right. And the wife knows that. So if you ask them to donate, she's quick to tell you, well, because of the restrictions on my husband, I can't do X, Y, Z. So if you're married to someone as long as Justice Alito and his wife have been married, she knows what the restrictions are on him. She knows what the appearance of impropriety is. And she knows that he should not be engaged in any kind of conduct or, conversation or anything that would suggest that there is even an appearance of impropriety. So when she hung that flag up, I would have to imagine with his consent, they were thumbing their nose at the Supreme Court. They were thumbing their nose at the American people, saying we can do whatever we want to do. None of the rules that apply to anyone else in the country apply to us. So this kind of benign ignorance, that's my wife's flag, I'm not into flags, that's really offensive.
Yeah, it's not really benign ignorance to me. This isn't an let me ask my wife type of situation. I think, and I'm one of those people who thinks about things from different perspectives. I don't know, maybe the wife did it because she did not want him to participate. Maybe she had an alternative way of going about things, whereas he wasn't going to recuse himself. So let me make it where he has to. You never know what goes on in the household. But for him to just blame it on his wife, I think that's not only disrespectful, but it's to the point where it's so trivial to where the average American would not have faith in the system if they were to listen to his argument as to why this was happening. And I think it has to be talked about. He has to answer to it. You can't just say this was my wife and it not be, because of course there's some conversation happening in the household. So there is some type of bias wherever you want to put it, whether it's your personal bias, whether it's bias that's acquired through conversation with your spouse. There is conversation regarding the situation either way it goes.
Yeah, and he had to walk out the door and see the flag. Did he ever say, honey, you know that flag is a problem. Please take that flag down immediately. I have to, remain impartial. I can't have any symbols that would suggest I'm supportive of, any political party or any movement. And he didn't do that. He just took this attitude, well, she likes to fly flags, so let her do it, which is, again, so galling and so disrespectful, as you say, Katrina, to the American people and to the institution, to the court as an institution. They've really made the court a laughingstock. And it is very hard to have any faith in our judicial system. It's almost as bad as Donald Trump, that goes out and, constantly berates our judicial system, causing people to have little to no faith in it. That conduct by Justice Alito in many ways is tantamount to that. I do want to ask you, Omi Congo, the story about these Black men on the airplane. I don't even know, in what world would you ask 8 Black men off of a plane because someone, and we now know it's a white flight attendant, said she smelled a body odor? I mean, I don't know what kind of training she didn't have, but the nerve of someone to do that. This is some of these cases, it's almost unbelievable that this really happened. But yeah, this really happened in America in January, several months ago.
You say, who would have the nerve? It's the nerve of a society that feels emboldened to do whatever they want to Black people and Black men's bodies. I was talking to my older brother, a couple of months ago, and he was talking about how he was asked to leave a restaurant because some of the woman in there felt like he was making her feel uncomfortable just by sitting there and dining. And it's just, the fact that people would not only think it, but then you get people like law enforcement and the others who will also support it and enforce it. Like we're in this age again where people are just being deputized to be able to police Black bodies in any way, shape, or form. And they wouldn't ask 8 white men to get off of a plane, right? And so the fact that we get targeted for something like that, I'm so glad, these lawsuits and things are happening, because we're seeing it. And look, and many of us nowadays will say, hey, these brothers got off lucky, because they're still alive. Because you never know what can happen nowadays when law enforcement gets involved in anything. We see this in every single way. For all of the work that you're doing, when we were out in Los Angeles, protesting, what happened to the young man out there as well. Whenever law enforcement gets involved, anything can happen. And I feel like when flight attendants and teachers and people on the street do these things of Black people, they know that's also playing at the back of our heads as well. So it's like, you better do what I'm going to say. Otherwise, you'll know what's going to happen. And that's the problem that we're dealing with today. And people like Trump and people like these other guys out there who have no problems with it, this is the type of society they want to create, where we are feeling like we're living in a police state and intimidated at every single juncture. And it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, the deputizing of people who are not deputy, who are not law enforcement, but have the power over your bodies is really appalling and scary, because we all know if you even push back in the slightest way with the flight attendant, they can call federal law enforcement agents. There may even be an air marshal on the plane, in plain's clothes that you don't even know, but you will be escorted off that plane. You could find yourself facing federal charges so quickly for the slightest, like I said, slightest, verbal altercation. So we've all been trained, particularly after 9/11, don't ever literally, respond back to a flight attendant. If they tell you to move, you better move. If they tell you to, sit over here, you better sit over here. You better follow those instructions to the T, even to the point of them, without cause, without any justification, asking 8 Black men to remove themselves for a plane. Think about all the shame and humiliation they had to face. They didn't know what was happening. They're thinking, wow, is there something wrong with this aircraft? Are we all being asked to deplane? They get to the gate and then they're told why they were removed. And literally, apparently, according to this lawsuit, there is an employee there who is agreeing that it was rank discrimination. Apparently, that has been caught on tape or has been recorded, where even an American Airlines employee acknowledges the discrimination. And then after an hour of being held at the gate, and I don't know, they doing some kind of smell test, some kind of body test. I mean, we can't even imagine the level of just violation you would have to feel by being targeted in this way. And then you come back on the plane and everybody is looking at you like, okay, are they terrorists? You know, do they have bombs on them? Are they threatening? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And yes, thank God for civil rights lawyers. That's all I can say. Shout out to the civil rights lawyers who are filing these cases and holding these companies accountable. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The Donald Trump hush money jury has been dismissed for the day. They asked 4 questions regarding earlier testimony from the National Enquirer publisher David Pecker and ex-Trump lawyer Michael Cohen. They also asked the judge to read the jury instructions once again. President Biden is working to shore up support among Black voters as he seeks re-election. Biden appeared alongside Vice President Kamala Harris at a joint rally in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania today. He credited Black Americans for his 2020 election win and asked for their support to make Donald Trump a loser again in 2024. A group of Black men are suing Texas-based American Airlines after they were kicked off a flight. The reason for the removal was a complaint over their bodily odor. In a statement, they say that they were targeted because of the color of their skin. The men who were flying from Phoenix, Arizona to New York did not know each other and were not seated together. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Accidents been cleared over in Linwood's 105 East before Long Beach Boulevard, but expect a 35-minute backup in recovery from the 405. In Culver City, accidents been cleared also from the 405 North before National Boulevard with a 10 to 15-minute backup in recovery from Braddock Drive. Long Beach's 405 South at Lakewood Boulevard has an accident that remains on the right shoulder in which a vehicle is over the side, and a slight delay still runs heavy from Cherry Avenue, Spring Street interchange. And stop traffic is ahead on the 91 East at Glasser Street, Kramer Boulevard split in Anaheim Hills as an accident on the right shoulder.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Shopping for new blinds? At Blindster, we offer over 50 different blinds, shades, and shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows, and shipping is free. Shop at home and order 10 free samples of any product before you buy. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Bronny James has made it official. LeBron's son said he is not going back to college and is turning all of his attention to prepare for the June 26 NBA draft. Bronny had until 9 a.m. Wednesday morning to decide if he wanted to stay in college. Bronny played 1 season at USC. NBA scouts project Bronny to be a second-round pick. Bronny's agent is Rich Paul, the same person who represents his famous father. Clippers coach Ty Lue has agreed on a long-term contract extension to stay with the Clippers. The deal will make Lue one of the highest-paid head coaches in the NBA. Lue had 1 year remaining on his current contract. After 3 years of research, Major League Baseball has decided to include statistics of Negro League players. This means legendary catcher Josh Gibson is now the all-time leader with a career .372 batting average. That moves Gibson ahead of Ty Cobb's .367. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drum.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want? Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. JD Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. For JD Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ziprecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back with Dr. Omikongo Dibinga and Katrina Robinson. And in hour 2, we're going to be talking about your attachment style and how your attachment style impacts your relationships, particularly your romantic relationship. Triple board certified neuropsychologist and my good friend, Dr. Judy Ho, joins me in hour 2 to talk about her new book, which is all about your attachment style. So if you're having trouble in your relationship and can't figure out why, make sure you stick around for hour 2. We may have some answers and revelations for you that can help you set your relationship on the right path. All right, Dr. Dibinga, the more I learn about this American airline case, the angrier I get. We now have reports that none of these men even knew each other, and they weren't sitting together. So I'm just trying to figure out in my brain, does this white woman walk up and down the aisle, say, I smell something, and then say it has to be the body odor of these random 8 black men all sitting in different parts of the plane who don't know each other? I mean, I'm just even trying to figure out, how do you get to the point where they are the ones that get selected to deplane because you smell an odor? I mean, can you wrap your brains around that? I mean, now knowing that it wasn't like these guys were together, they didn't know each other, they're just some random people catching a flight.
That was the first thing I automatically assumed, like maybe they were all coming back from a concert, or maybe they were athletes on a team or coming back from a business conference, and they were, or fraternity, just doing their thing, and that part, them getting off the plane and then standing there and just like, wait a minute. And as somebody who flies American Airlines a lot, it's my primary airline. I'm thinking back to the NAACP, which, a few years ago had targeted them for their discriminatory practices. And so American Airlines should be on this ASAP. I mean, this is so embarrassing. I mean, and then to have to get back on the plane, fly back, have people look at you, then you have to go home and have to deal with that. And it's extremely frustrating. American Airlines should have never seen the light of day. This was January. This should have already been settled. But again, this is part of a society that feels emboldened. And it kind of goes back to our other segment about Alito. Like, these people can just feel like in different sectors, in different places, just feel like they can do whatever they want to police women's bodies, to police Black bodies, and feel like they will have no types of consequences or repercussions. And so, I feel terrible for them, but I know that there's going to be some type of settlement that's going to be satisfactory for these brothers, because if there's not, I mean, American Airlines is going to be the next place to be protested, and that's for sure, if people aren't already protesting it now. But I know that if that was me, that would be extremely difficult. And the only reason they were allowed back on that flight was because there were no other flights later that night. And so it was basically like, well, we're not going to pay for these guys to stay here, so we might as well let them back on. That's ridiculous.
You're right.
Airlines need to pay up big time.
Somebody in corporate, their head needs to roll, or heads with an S, because they knew this happened. They had the ability to reach out to each of these individuals, make them a monetary settlement offer, resolve this very quietly, and never have it get to the point where they had to file a lawsuit. The fact that they are filing a lawsuit means that the likelihood is that pre-litigation conversations, efforts to try to resolve this short of a federal lawsuit, stalled or failed completely. And we see this happen all the time, where big companies want to accept responsibility by issuing a statement of apology, but they don't want to do anything beyond that. They don't want to address the harm that they caused. And in our system, if it's not criminal, harm is addressed by providing monetary compensation. And sometimes there are other changes that might be offered, like training for the staff, like having a policy where you never just, pick every Black man on a plane without picking some white people to also cause them to have to deplane as well. I'm just, again, trying to wrap my brain around what the rest of the team is thinking as they're watching these 8 Black men deplane. No one had the common sense to say, wait a minute, if we're going to get those 8 guys off, we need to get, some other guys off as well. I mean, you just always wonder what the people in the room are thinking and what wasn't said, and how come something could get this far along without there being some kind of intervention. Speaking of interventions, Katrina, we are now learning that there is a grand jury that is convening in New York City to start taking evidence in the Sean Diddy Combs case, the case that involved, obviously, the raid of his home by federal officers, Homeland Security. And I just want to say, obviously, a grand jury does not mean that at the end of that grand jury process, or the convening of a grand jury does not mean there's going to automatically be an indictment. Grand juries are convened for lots of reasons. Sometimes it is to be able to issue subpoenas for documents, to issue subpoenas to force people to come in to testify. It can be part of an investigative process. But oftentimes when a grand jury is convened, it is because prosecutors already believe they have sufficient evidence that constitutes probable cause that a crime has been committed, and they're seeking an indictment from that grand jury. But in any case, it's never good to have a grand jury convened to talk about you. We've seen folks all over the internet, Katrina, on this issue of Diddy, some defending him, saying don't jump to conclusions. Yes, we saw that horrible video of him assaulting Cassie, but we shouldn't assume there are more videos. Others have come out really hard saying, look, where there's smoke, there's fire. We've seen enough from this guy to know that many of the allegations in these now 8 civil lawsuits are likely to be true. What are you making of the fact that there is now going to be a grand jury meeting in New York about something, and it is about Diddy? We know that.
Right. So in my opinion, and the old saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. But when you go to the grand jury, the bar for probable cause is very low. However, we don't know what charges Diddy may be facing. But I do know that if there's a grand jury convening, that's time, that's money, that's resources that are expended, and there has to be an end goal in mind. And from watching what has happened over the course of the past few months, I'm suspecting that there will be an indictment handed out on Diddy. Don't know what the charges would be. Of course, we know it's not for the LA incident. The statute has run out on that. We don't really know what the crux of the allegations are as far as a prosecution is concerned, but I would be willing to bet it's for an indictment.
Yeah, we do know that Homeland Security gets involved when there's human trafficking or sex trafficking. We know under federal law there are no statutes of limitations for human trafficking, and sex trafficking is using force, intimidation to cause someone to engage in a commercial sexual act. Dr. Dominga, what do you make of people who still are clinging to some notion that, yes, that video happened. Yes, there are 8 lawsuits alleging, and Cassie in her lawsuit, let's be clear, she does allege that she was sex trafficked too. So in addition to the physical assault, the rape, there is a sex trafficking allegation in her lawsuit. So based on that video, we know Cassie's credibility is extremely high. But despite that, there are a lot of people that want to cling to this notion that there's a rush to judgment, that this is somehow the media that's engaging in, use the word lynching, which I hate to do in this context, but there are those who would say this is a media lynching of another Black man. What do you say to them?
They said the same thing about R. Kelly. They say the same thing about Bill Cosby. Those folks, people just want to take down a powerful Black man. And I'm tired of it, to be quite honest. Yes, courts of law, innocent until proven guilty. But those of us who are in the community, hip hop community, R&B community, we know enough to know that where there's smoke, there's real fire. I mean, when you look at the stories of people like his former rap partners, like Mark Curry, who talks about how when they would be up in the clubs, they would have certain bottles on one side that had stuff in them that only the women could drink, and stuff for the guys that weren't tainted with anything. They talk about that. When you see stories about the security guards, like over the years, people have told story after story after story, and yet people don't care because whatever he was allegedly doing, it was just to Black women, and who cares about them? R. Kelly had a 35-year career after what he did, right? And I'm sure some people are alleging there were some boys involved in Diddy. My main point is that the first 50 years of hip hop has been what it's been. For these next 50 years, we have a real opportunity and responsibility to take control of it and make hip hop something that protects Black women. What would hip hop look like if it protected and respected Black women? It didn't for the first 50, but now those of us who are kids in it, now who are adults and lawyers and actors and business people and teachers, we have an opportunity to stake a claim in it. And part of it has to come down to, we are going to condemn these guys before the trials for the behaviors that we know that they are involved in, not going to support their music and all of that other type of stuff. Now is the time for us to make a stand, because they can indict him. He can get powerful lawyers. He can get off, but that doesn't mean that he gets pardoned by our community, because too much of what he's done has already been known. And if that Cassie video isn't enough for us to disown him, we know that more is coming. And so those people who are saying, trying to take people down, they got to grow up, and it's time to stand up.
Yeah, it's really irritating. I was on a show on Friday and with a really prominent lawyer who represents a lot of African-American rap artists. He's a friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for him. He's a great lawyer, great criminal defense lawyer. And I say, look, I understand you represent a lot of these guys. You've seen a lot, and your job is to get them off. And that's fine. And I respect that. I'm a lawyer. But as you just said, our community, this doesn't have to be a legal beyond reasonable doubt standard. That's not the standard in the Black community. It shouldn't be the standard about whether we hold you accountable for your treatment of women, whether they're Black women, Latina women, white women, whatever. We need to stand up and say enough is enough, and we're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to turn a blind eye and accept you and allow you to denigrate our women, assault our women. I mean, we were having an argument about the statute of limitations. I'm like, really? What we should be arguing about is why that statute isn't longer. How come you can't file charges against someone for domestic violence, even if it's 10 years later? Because we know what the battered woman syndrome looked like. We know that a lot of women don't have the courage to come forward. They've been intimidated. They've been threatened, and they don't come forward. So rather than sit there and argue about, the statute has passed. Yes, it has passed. But isn't that pathetic? Isn't it pathetic that Cassie cannot go into the LA County District Attorney's office and file charges for that beatdown that we witnessed on that video? And that's what really drives me crazy about this. How much more evidence do we need? We saw it with our own eyes. We heard it. We've seen now 8 lawsuits. So yes, there may be some exaggeration in 1 or 2 of the lawsuits, and there have been some of the defendants that have already been dismissed. But fundamentally, there is enough evidence there for us as a community to say, we are not going to take this anymore. You must treat us in the way that presumably you want someone to treat your mother, your wife, and your daughter. When we come forward, we got to talk about Biden and Harris together. That was a rare sighting for them in Philadelphia, making a play for those Black voters. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
We see a lot of news about teens vaping, but teens see something else. Videos on social media that glamorize it and downplay the dangers of nicotine. How can parents talk so kids will listen? Use facts. 1. Nicotine can rewire teens' brains. 2. It can make teens more anxious. 3. Changes to the brain can be permanent. So even when it hides behind a new look, nicotine is brain poison. Go to undo.org for more.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Dr. Domingo, I know you are a regular contributor on the Roland Martin show, and my good brother Roland tweeted something earlier that someone sent me. He says, frankly, I don't think the Biden-Harris administration understands what it's going to take. They are going to need to engage with Black voters, and they need to spend more money, he says, in targeting them. And he goes on and says some other things, but essentially saying that the Biden-Harris administration is underestimating what it's going to take and that they're not spending enough money. Do you agree with that assessment? And then what do you make of this trip by Harris and Biden to Philadelphia today with Wes Moore and some other Black leaders?
I think that it's mostly true. Roland talks often about the importance of, spending money, and not only money, but also time engaging Black media, appearing regularly. Trump will call up Hannity and all of these guys, weekly and, be on their shows. Trump will call up local stations, in places like Mississippi that have like 80 listeners and talk to them. And the Biden-Harris campaign does not do that often with Black media. So Roland is absolutely right as it relates to that. And so that's what I'm saying. That's the part that I fully agree on. But I also think that it's incumbent upon us. We have to do better in terms of educating ourselves on these issues. This narrative of, Biden and Harris have to work for our vote. They can't take our vote for granted. To be quite honest, that's a narrative that I'm tired of. The Harris and Biden-Harris campaign could absolutely do better and do more and be more engaged. But what about our engagement? I mean, we're the children of the civil rights movement. I mean, this actually might be the last election. Is that not enough to get us motivated to get out there and get registered to vote? And I feel like, waiting for Biden and Harris to come knocking on our door, and if they don't knock on our door in a way that is 3 knocks instead of 4 knocks, we're not going to vote for them. And we got all of these guys out there, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Chris Broussards, the Cardi B's, who are either saying things like, the Charlemagnes, who are saying things like, well, I'm not supporting Trump, but I'm not supporting Biden. I'm not saying who I'm going to vote for, and so on and so forth. Like no people in Black celebrity spaces are coming out and saying hands down they're going to vote for Biden. Look at what Robert De Niro's doing, though. Look at what the documentarian Ken Burns is doing. These guys are breaking their silence. And so more of us need to step up for Biden and Harris. But yes, this is campaign season, and they can always do more. And they would be wise to listen to Roland Martin's advice and actually do more. But we have a bigger part to play as well. We have more to do on our own.
I wish I could literally walk you into the home of a friend of mine who says they being Biden and Harris are not doing enough to earn her vote. You just said that so eloquently. Yes, they can do more, but you, and this is a lawyer, this is a Ivy League trained, educated woman. And I love what you said. We are children of the civil rights movement. What are we doing? And the world, and I told her this, I said, if Biden and Harris do X, you're going to say they need to do X plus A. Exactly. If they do X plus A, you're going to say they need to do X plus A plus B. I said, they never are going to be able to do enough to satisfy you. And it's bigger than them. And I went there with the judges. I'm like, girl, you're a lawyer. Exactly. 200 federal court judges, more Black judges, women than any president in the history. If that doesn't alone give you a reason to vote for them, there's nothing they can do to earn your vote. And Katrina, jump in here, because you've been in office and you have dealt with these single issue voters and these disgruntled people who didn't get one thing out of a list of 10. What did you say to those voters who were mad at you because you didn't do X, but you had done everything else perhaps, that helped to improve the quality of their lives?
I think one thing I was intentional about, Areva, is being in constant communication about the wins. And we've talked about that several times on the show, how we've done such a poor job of being able to communicate the successes of the administration to the common person. And I do agree that there needs to be more investment in the Black vote. There needs to be more investment in those areas that are taken for granted time after time. Again, we saw what it did to Hillary in her election. There has been time and time again when we take for granted that Black people are going to vote Democratic because it's what they've been raised to do, when really there needs to be more education put forth. We put a lot on the backs of these grassroots organizations to reach voters, when really the administration could have been setting the platform all along. But you have now the opportunity, like you said, there have been so many people who have remained silent about what the call to action is in this election. This is where we take our resources and pool those to get those people to speak up, because it can't just be we're trying to reach the end voter. We have to be able to magnify our influence, and we do that by diversifying our message, by having other people deliver the message. And until there is that type of message put out there, you're going to have the same thing. People are going to say, what are they going to do for me? They always want our vote. They never show up after they get elected, blah, blah, blah. Apathy is far more contagious than energy is. And so when you have that problem, you have to be able to diversify that message through other messengers.
And the problem is Democrats do so much. So if you're doing 10 and people want you to do 15, it's a problem. The Republicans do 2. So there are no expectations for them. And I'm thinking now about my friend, and what she said was, when Biden went to speak at the Morehouse graduation, she called it pandering. I said, wait a minute. If he didn't go to the graduation, you would say he's not going to talk to Black folks, at a Black graduation. He goes and you call it pandering. I said, it's called freaking election season. And you better go wherever you invited to talk to voters.
I mean, if Trump can show up with gold tennis shoes and no-name rappers, why can't he go to the White House?
And they don't call that pandering.
No
right?
name criminal, no name rappers who've been accused of committing murder, conspiracy to commit murder. So not just no name rappers, rappers who have rap sheets and rappers who do not reflect, as Dr. Domingo would say, the best of hip hop music. 30 seconds, Dr. Domingo, tell us something to inspire my friend about why it's not about what Biden and Harris have done for her, but what has she done for her country?
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage her to look at what Biden and Harris said today because it got no coverage because everybody was talking about Trump. They had powerful messages for the Black community. I would look at every sentence that they said and go look at their record to date and see if it matches what they said as it relates to police reform, infrastructure, education, student loans, all of these different things that they've been talking about. Black woman on the Supreme Court, Black woman vice president, all of the judges, and he's been putting his money where his mouth is. He needs to do more, but he can't do more if he's not reelected. And if Trump gets in, we're going to get the complete opposite. So tell her to check out the speech today and go do a fact check and get to that voting booth.
I'm going to tell her to listen to what you said today, because I think that was one of the most powerful statements I've heard about what people need to do themselves. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Dr. Domingo. Thank you, Katrina. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. Stay with us. We're going to be talking about your attachment style and what that may mean for your relationship. So if you're having some relationship issues, this is one show you don't want to miss. KBLA Talk 1580. You got lots to talk about. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.